Hey guys, it's Eddie, and today I am back with another movie review for you all. Now, I know recently that we've kind of torn away from my series focusing on the movies of the Brat Pack, but today we have returned to that, and so the movie that I will be reviewing for you all is 16 Candles, starring Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall, and directed and written by the one and only John Hughes of The Breakfast Club fame. Now, this movie centres really around Sam Baker, who is played by Molly Ringwald, and it starts off, it's her birthday, she's just turned 16, and she's a little bit disheartened that nothing really has changed. You know, she expected, her sweet 16th to be something fantastic, she's going to wake up a new woman, and it hasn't really happened. And on top of all of that, her family are so busy preparing for her sister's wedding that they have completely forgotten it's her birthday at all. And this is kind of Samantha. The movie is kind of about Samantha's sort of teenage misery of being ignored by her family and just feeling kind of lost, and also there is, the plot also centres around her sort of feelings for another high school boy called Jake Ryan, and also her kind of dodging advances from the local high school nerd, the enigmatically named Farmer Ted, played by Anthony Michael Hall. Now, it's a kind of basic plot, it's fairly simple, but I think what makes this film so brilliant, it's fantastically written without the need for like a huge dramatic plot to make it, sizzle, and it really comes from the characters that John Hughes created. Anthony Michael Hall as Farmer Ted is just hilarious. For me, I think he's the standout of the movie. His sort of the way he hits on Samantha, the chemistry that he and Molly Ringwald have is just great. I know for a fact that initially when they started the movie they didn't really like each other, but by the time they filmed The Breakfast Club they were actually dating, so that's kind of cute, but it shows that they have really, really great chemistry on screen together. She kind of dodges him at all costs, but in the end they become friends and they end up kind of having a happy ending together. Not together, but both of them find happiness where they didn't really have it in the beginning, and it's really sweet. I think one of my favourite parts of this film is the shot at the beginning, or the sequence of shots, which forms the title sequence. And it's kind of just a compilation of shots of the high school that Samantha and Farmer Ted go to, and it's kind of shots of like couples holding hands, kids getting off the bus, those classic 80s like jean jackets and just compiled with badges and all that kind of stuff. It really takes you back, and when it's coupled with Ira Newborn's fantastic synth 80s soundtrack, it's great. It really sort of gives you that teen 80s vibe that is just so quintessential for John Hughes movies and movies of the 80s. I love it. The soundtrack actually is it's an absolute gem, the 16 Candles soundtrack. I mean, it's got fantastic songs featured on there that really fit well with the movie. Not only does John Hughes and Ira Newborn include really classical pieces of music, ones that everybody hears, that are kind of overlaid with actions that the characters do to sort of that really induce a laugh, that really makes you giggle, but they also include great 80s songs with fantastic bands like Altered Images, Oingo Boingo, Thompson Twins. The soundtrack it really helps take you back to that time, and it really helps give that verve of a teen's life in the 1980s, and it's great. I think this movie does really well to sort of show the sort of, I don't know, I wouldn't say the fickleness, but it's the sort of teen obsession with, you know, dating, and, you know, that whole first love thing, and, you know, that whole image of becoming a woman, which Samantha so desperately wants. You know, there are other girls in school that are obviously more developed than her, and, you know, when she's looking at Jake Ryan, she's like, oh, you know, he's never going to look twice at me. And, you know, it's that whole teen struggle with themselves and with love, with like first love. And yeah, I think it's really good. I think it definitely touches on some subjects that I think every teenager, no matter from what decade in which they were a teenager, will find relevant. And I think it also touches on that theme which is quite prominent for teenagers, I think, which is kind of like family embarrassment. Samantha's family, which is just a fantastic supporting cast. I think the family is so like wacky and funny and like just excruciatingly cringeworthy. It's brilliant. John Hughes' writing and the cast that he got involved were just the perfect combination, and I think it works really well to convey that sense of, you know, she's a teenager and she has to put up with her family fawning over her, and yet at the same time forgetting her birthday. It's all a bit of a mess, but yeah, I think, you know, especially with scenes with the grandparents where they're like, you know, talking about the fact that she's suddenly looking very grown up in the breast department, and it's just very, very embarrassing for her. But you can imagine, even though it's slightly exaggerated for the movie, for the comedy value, you can imagine that this happens, and everyone knows that, you know, some members of the family are kind of cringeworthy and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's a really familiar subject that you find yourself laughing at in the movie, and I think that's total credit to John Hughes' incredible writing. I love it. There's some really great quintessential quotes in there. I think one of the best quotes is when Samantha, at the very, very beginning, and that really helps you sort of endear to her character and understand her, is, chronologically you're 16 today, physically you're still 15. When she's looking in the mirror, it's kind of that disappointment that, you know, she was gonna suddenly wake up and feel different and feel fantastic, and, you know, she'd feel attractive and all of that kind of stuff, and you kind of really feel for her. And I think Michael Schufling as Jake Ryan, the kind of iconic object of female high school desire, is pretty, you know, he's good, and he kind of helps sort of veer away from that typical teen male high school obsession with girls and the way they look. Like, he ends up going for Samantha because of, you know, there's something about her, there's something about her personality. She's still pretty, but, you know, he likes her for other reasons as well. I think Jake is a really he's a really sweet character, and I think Michael plays him really well, and he has really lovely chemistry with Molly Ringwald as well, especially in those final end scenes when he pulls up outside the church where her sister's getting married, and, you know, all of that lovely, lovely stuff happens. I think it's a really hilarious movie. I think it's really, really quirky, but I think it's also got some really lovely scenes and some hugely famous 80s quotes and, you know, scenes that are just, I think, essential. I think this movie is kind of, it's not got as many of the Brat Pack as you see in St. Elmo's Fire and The Breakfast Club, for example. It's really only got Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall, but it's still a Brat Pack movie. It's John Hughes. I think it's just a really great movie to watch when you're feeling down, you want a laugh. I watched it a couple of years ago and I loved it, and I've returned to it many times. I think it is a really, really great movie. I don't think for me that it surpasses the likes of The Breakfast Club, because we all know that I have The Breakfast Club on this like huge plinth and it's just the best movie ever. But I think it's up there. It's a really good movie, and some people might find it better than The Breakfast Club, you know, because it's less, I don't know, it's less I think on some levels it's less emotional, it's less serious. It's just got a really great quirky, kooky comedy theme to it, and also I think there's, you know, great celebrity cameos to look out for of people and actors that we know now that were upcoming in the 80s. Like there's really adorable, funny cameos by Joan Cusack, and her brother John plays a small part as well, and they're both brilliant. This kind of collection of actors that are only young in this movie but come together and just make a really like, it's a really wacky comedy, but it's so interesting, and the collaboration of script and acting is brilliant, and I love this movie. I would watch it again and again, and I hope you would too. It's definitely one to watch. It's definitely one that I would recommend, and I guess if I had to give it a rating out of 5 stars, I'd definitely be inclined to give it 4 out of 5 perhaps, just because I think there might be slightly better Brat Pack movies, as I've said. I mean, this was kind of like one of the first. I mean, it was the first, you know, popular or highly famed John Hughes movie of the 80s. I think the likes of The Breakfast Club might just slightly peak it, but I think this is a fabulous movie. It's so funny, it's so different, and I don't think there's a movie that is quite on the same level of the kind of intersplicings between comedy and romance. It's just brilliant, and certain characters, especially the likes of like Samantha's brother, her little brother, who I think is really brilliant. The young cast are just fantastic, and there's some real gems of performances in there, and I would definitely recommend this film to anyone. So this has been another continuation of the films of the Brat Pack, and if you like this review, you can give it a little cheeky like and a subscribe, but that is up to you. And if you want to suggest a movie for me to review in the future, just leave a comment down below or message me on my Tumblr account, and I will do my very best to get that sorted for you. So with that, there is my verdict on 16 Candles, and I hope to see you in the next review. Bye!